Day. Cupcake teams are moving on up. Kansas State finally gets a win, and Oregon is number 1. All this right now on American Game Day. Welcome to American Game Day. I'm your host, Braden Slater. Today is Saturday, October 26th. It is a huge weekend, huge day in college football. There are a lot of huge games that are going to impact the playoffs, starting with Texas versus Vanderbilt as our game of the week. Probably not going to impact the playoff that much, but definitely going to shake up the SEC conference because Vanderbilt is 5-2, I believe. Texas is 6-1. Vanderbilt can get this win. Boy, it's going to totally shake up the world. I think it might be bigger than them beating Alabama. But anyway, we had some games over the week. Let's take a look at the scoreboard recap. But Kansas State gets a win 27-24 over Liberty, giving Liberty their first loss of the season. And I'll talk about Kansas State later on in the show. But we also had some other big games. Syracuse versus Pitt on a Thursday night, Boise State versus UNLV on a Friday night, and some other big games will be at the bottom line that happened on Friday as well. So there are the final scores of those games. Alright, got some college football headlines for you, starting off with the SEC versus Texas. The SEC has fined Texas $250,000 for their fans throwing beer bottles and water bottles, beer cans and water bottles onto the field to potentially because they didn't like that there was pass interference called against Texas, and boy did the fans work, and the officials looked at the Jumbotron, and I was like, yeah, that's not pass interference. Interception goes to Texas. So yeah, the SEC is wanting punishment for the students and fans that were involved with throwing things on the field. And also, big news coming out of Oklahoma. The offensive coordinator, Seth Littrell, is fired. Yep, the co-offensive coordinator, John Finland, will take over duties and make the play calling. They got Ole Miss today. Have more about that later on. Indiana quarterback, Curtis, had a thumb injury last week. He had surgery this week. Not expected to be available versus Washington today. They will be at home, but I think Washington could pull off the upset, but I don't see it happen. Very likely he'll be out next week as well, but we'll keep an eye on his return for next week. And like I already mentioned, Kansas State won their first game of the season. And guess what? It's also their very first win versus an FBS school. And it's also the 6th time an 0-5 team or worse had defeated a 5-0 team or better. Huge. And it's against Liberty, and that basically eliminates Liberty out of the playoffs. Also, conference realignment in effect. Here we go. Here's some new conference games. SMU at Duke, ACC, Washington, Indiana, Big Ten, Illinois, Oregon. Oregon is number 1, in case you haven't noticed. Big Ten. West Virginia, Arizona is the Big 12. Utah and Houston's also the Big 12. Cincinnati and Colorado. Yeah, who would have thought those two are Big 12. And then Oklahoma at Ole Miss, Texas and at Vanderbilt. Some of them are some big matchups too. Speaking of Texas and Vanderbilt, it is our game of the week. It's on SEC Network, but Yeah, I really thought it should have been like ABC or ESPN or one of those bigger ones because this is a huge game. This is ranked versus ranked game. I think if it's ranked versus ranked, it should be on one of the big time networks. Anyway, 3:15. Texas is an 8.5 point favored. That is a big favor for Texas. I think it's going to be a lot closer than that. But yeah, let's look at the stat comparisons. Texas is dominating in everything except for turnovers. Look at Vanderbilt winning the turnover margin by. They're winning by 6 in this one, or I guess 4, but yeah, 6 plus 6 in a turnover margin. I mean, they're putting up 33 points per game. They're putting up a lot of yardage too. Quinn Ewers, yeah. He's passing 68%. I think he is Texas' guy now after completely blowing it to Georgia. Over 1,000 yards, 11 touchdowns, and 4 interceptions. And no one cares about Quinn Ewers. Yeah, even though he's probably was in the Heisman race. No, we're looking at Diego. This guy is definitely in the Heisman race. He's passing 66%. 1,391 yards, 11 touchdowns, and only 1 interception. The first interception actually came last week. He's putting up, and it's not even just his stats. He's doing everything to get Vanderbilt the win week by week. Let's look at the ACC. 7 o'clock on the ACC network. Number 22, SMU. Who would have believed SMU is ranked versus another Power 4 school that's not ranked. Anyway, they're on the road to Duke, and gonna be a good one. Duke is not bad either. I mean, Duke can pull off the upset. I believe Duke should be ranked as well, but they got Pitt next week. Gonna be a tough one for them, and then they get a break with Boston College and Virginia. And looking at Duke upcoming schedule, they got a tough one. SMU today, they could get by that one. They're probably not going to beat Miami. And then they get a little break as well with NC State and Virginia Tech. And they got Miami on the road. That's going to be a hard one. Here's some other big notable games around the ACC. Georgia Tech versus Virginia Tech. Going to be a good one, 11 o'clock on the ACC network. And somehow this is well, an ACC, not really. I mean, Oregon State isn't in the ACC, but yeah, Pac-12 is back. Yeah, 3 o'clock ESPN2. They should have made this after dark, man. Oregon State versus California. And it's the big game too. Do not sleep on that 3 and 4 California. They are good enough to win those games. And Oregon State not bad either. That's going to be quite a game at 3 o'clock. Let's look at the ACC standing. Miami is 1. Pitt is 2. Clemson is 3. SMU is 4. And number 5 is Duke. Yep. But if Duke can able to get the win at home, they can flip with SMU. But, yeah. Clemson already were. They've played most of their season in conference. They're 5-0 in conference, but they still have a lot of. The reason why I have them 3 is because they did most of their in-conference games early on, so they have a couple of non-conference games coming up, and that really Miami and Pitt has been the best teams so far out of the ACC conference. Looking at the Big Ten, 2:30 on CBS. Number 20, Illinois. They're 6-1. They are a 21-point underdog. Yeah, Illinois probably not going to win this game. Illinois hasn't had the best. Illinois had some success this year, but they really haven't had any challenge. This is really their first big, true game. They're going on the road to Oregon. Oregon's number 1. But if they can beat Oregon, I think they got a chance to be successful in the Big Ten. I mean, look at their upcoming schedule. And then we look at Nebraska and Ohio State. Nebraska, I'm putting upset alert on Ohio State. Ohio State might be 25-point favored, but anything can happen. 11 o'clock on Fox. Ohio State 4. They're 5-1. They could probably win this game, but look at Nebraska's upcoming schedule. They can win this game. They got UCLA next, USC, and Wisconsin. Nebraska really could set themselves up. It really could come down to Illinois versus Nebraska if they could pull off. They could both pull off these upsets today. Now, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but it's a possibility. Small possibility. And then Washington versus Indiana. Gotta be a big one. How can Washington respond? Indiana was out there starting quarterback. So how is Washington going to respond with that? Washington's not bad. Neither is Maryland and Minnesota. They're kind of at the middle of the conference right now. This game will probably give them the boost they need to go to a bowl game, 2:30 on FS1. Look at Indiana's upcoming schedule. Now, they possibly could get their quarterback back on November 2nd to get the game against Michigan State. But if not, he will for sure be back against that big game against Michigan. They'll for sure be ready for that. And might well, he'll take a break getting ready for that game. And then they got Ohio State next after that on the road. So, Indiana, if they can get by these next couple of games, they could be set up. The Big Ten's actually getting really good, too, as well. I'm really looking forward to the Big Ten. Some other big games out of the Big Ten. Penn State and Wisconsin going to be a big one as well. Wisconsin's known to pulling off those upsets when you least expect it. And then a big rivalry game, which really has been a rivalry game the past couple years. But I think Michigan State is starting to jump back up there. Michigan State versus Michigan this afternoon. Now let's look at the Big Ten standing. Clearly, the number 1 team's got to be number 1 in their conference. Oregon. Number 2 is Ohio State. Number 3 is Penn State. Number 4 is Indiana. And number 5 is Illinois. Yeah, and you could probably throw Nebraska in there at 6. Yeah, Nebraska probably needs to be this graphic. This Big Ten is going to be crazy. I mean, yeah, Oregon's likely number 1. Probably going to be in the Big Ten championship game. But I have no clue who's going to be there, who they're going to play against, who's going to be second. It might even be Indiana. If they can somehow get past these next couple of games, they could be there. Illinois, I don't see Illinois getting up there. Penn State got to win those games as well, and also Ohio State. But we'll see. In the next couple of weeks, we will find out. Looking at the Big 12, the Big 12 is kind of like got a dead week. But yeah, their big one, 9:15 on ESPN. Not even their any one of their ranked teams is featured today. But Cincinnati versus Colorado is gonna be a good one. I will say this. But BYU is on the road to UCF. Do not sleep on UCF. They can pull off an upset when they want to. I don't know which version of UCF, if we're going to get the good or the bad UCF, but if we get the good one, BYU is going to be on the ropes, 2:30 on ESPN. Texas Tech has had a back-and-forth season as well. They played like UCF. Who knows if we're going to get the good or the bad one. They're going to be playing TCU. And West Virginia versus Arizona, gonna be a good one as well. Pay very close attention to that one because they're both fighting to get to a bowl game. And then Kansas versus Kansas State. I was really expecting this to be like a huge, alright, state rivalry game is back. Kansas is back at being terrible. Yeah, K-State's clearly gonna win that game. Let's look at the Big 12 standings. Yep, BYU is at the top along with Iowa State. Yep, BYU and Iowa State is likely the 2 top teams in the Big 12 right now. And if any Big 12 team can upset either one of those two, that opens the door for K-State, Colorado, and Cincinnati. Because any one of those can jump into that second spot if whatever BYU or Iowa State ends up losing. I think we'll have either BYU or Iowa State in the Big 12 championship game. I think one of those two are locked. I wouldn't say locked yet. I mean, obviously those two got to play each other, but I'm predicting it's going to be one of those two in it. Possibly both of them, but I see a loss from both of them down the line. I mean, there's not going to be an undefeated team in the Big 12 at all. But looking at Iowa State's upcoming schedule, they got a bye week, but they get back to Texas Tech that next week. That's gonna be a hard one. Kansas, I think they can get by that one. Cincinnati's gonna be tough, and then well, without Cam Rising, I think Utah is gonna be beatable. So I think Texas Tech is the hardest team on Iowa State's schedule right now. Looking at the SEC, 2:30 on ABC. Missouri goes on the road to Alabama. 21 versus 15. Alabama 6.5 point favored. This one's gonna be a huge matchup. And a little hint, EA Sports video game had a little had it closer than I thought. I really think that we're finally seeing Alabama we meant to see, because Missouri really, in the big games, they really haven't been playing that great. And another big one, this is the big one here, 6:30 ABC, LSU versus A&M. The top two teams in the SEC. This is the pre-SEC championship game right now. This is an SEC playoff game. Alright, we got a playoff we got playoff game in conference, basically. But yeah, I really think the loser of this game is likely out of the SEC and making room for either Alabama, Georgia, or Texas. There's the upcoming schedule for both those two teams. A&M gotten easy. If they can get by LSU, A&M basically sets themselves up in the SEC. I really think if A&M beats LSU today, they're in the SEC championship game. I mean, South Carolina, New Mexico State, and then Auburn. Are you kidding me? And then look at the rest of the SEC big game. Not even worth mentioning. Oklahoma versus Ole Miss, I guess, is going to be a good one. We'll see how Oklahoma's offense looks with their coaching change there. And Auburn and Kentucky. I both had high hopes I had high hopes for Kentucky at the start of the year. Auburn, well, with Hugh Freeze, had some momentum, thinking that they might be slightly better. They're not. Still Auburning. But, looking at the SEC standings, and I gotta say, it might look like completely out of order, but this is my standing, not the official standings, how I do it. But Georgia is 1 with that big win over Texas. Texas is 2, A&M 3, LSU 4, and Missouri is 5. So, yeah, that is your my SEC standings. It's gonna be a good one coming up here, and just yeah, the SEC is gonna get crazy here, and there are a lot of key matchups here. I think we're pretty much gonna have the SEC set. The SEC, I should have made it the SEC playoff today. There's so many key games in the SEC today. All right, looking at the Pac-12, like I already mentioned, Oregon State versus California at 3 o'clock, ESPN 2. Another big one. Washington State versus San Diego State, 9 o'clock on CBS Sports Network. This one gonna be pretty close to now. Washington State is gonna win this game. All right, it's Cupcake Race 2024. Last year, that team was Washington, making it to the college football playoff. This year, completely new story with the 12-team playoff in play and only one group of 5 spot. Boise State, they're 5-1. They're first in the Mountain West. Their only loss is to number 1 Oregon. Their best win on their resume is Washington State. Now, Army, 7-0. I haven't seen them undefeated in this long. First in the American Conference, outscoring opponents by 196 points. Navy, 6-0, as also staying with Army, outscoring opponents by 151 points. Vanderbilt, they're 5th in the SEC. Their only loss to is Georgia State and Missouri. Close. And they have an upset win over Alabama and Kentucky. So, we're halfway through the season. You decide which one you think will make the playoffs. Alright, on to the group of 5. Tulane versus North Texas, 11 o'clock on ESPN 2. Going to be a good one as well. I think it's really one of the biggest group. No, there's actually a bigger group of 5 game later on. But not really group of 5, but depending on the home team. But St. Joe State and Fresno State's going to be a good one as well. 7 o'clock on True TV. I forgot True TV does football this year. I haven't really even seen one. But, yeah. Look at that Boise State upcoming schedule. They had a game last night. There is, again, the results of that game. I'm recording this before that game ended. They got San Diego State up next, Nevada, and St. Joe State. All right. Army and Navy. Navy's got a big one today. They're hosting Notre Dame. Notre Dame is a 3-point, half-point favorite, 11 o'clock, ABC. Number 12 versus number 24. When was the last time you seen these two teams play each other when they're both ranked? It's been a while. I don't think I've ever seen it in my memory before, so that's going to be a big one. It's going to be a big one, really setting up Navy. Army has a bye week this week, so they'll be playing Air Force, another service academy, next week. And then they got North Texas. Got to be a good one as well. Then they got Notre Dame as well. So Army and Navy both have a shot at Notre Dame. Basically, the biggest game on their schedule. And then at the bottom, UTSA. And then look at Navy's upcoming schedule. They got Rice, South Florida. Rice is probably going to be easy. South Florida is a challenging. I had no idea where they stand each week. I don't know if we're going to get the good or the bad, but that's 3 weeks away. And Tulane, again, they're not as great as they were the last couple of years, but I think they're good enough to probably pull off an upset there if Navy somehow beats Notre Dame. So, yeah. Well, let's look at the race to the college football playoffs. Let's look at the group of 5 overall. Boise State cleared the front runner of the group of 5, number 21 in my ranking. Number 23 on my rankings is Army. Next up is Navy. And then Memphis and UNLV is there to set up, have a spot at the playoff if for whatever reason Boise State, Army, or Navy slips up. Which is possible because Army and Navy could both lose in their name. And, well, I mean, this graphic is made before the Boise State and UNLV game, so it's quite possible UNLV pulled off that upset. UNLV is up at the top. And, yeah, and if Army and Navy end up losing Notre Dame later on this year, UNLV, boom, got a spot in the playoff. And it all depends on where Memphis is in the American Conference. So, no one seems to, well, I may be getting ahead of myself, but no one seems to be wanting the last spot out of the group of 5 in the playoff. All right, let's look at Kansas, 7 o'clock on ESPN2. All right, on the road to Kansas State. Gonna be a big blowout for Kansas State. I mean, their only loss is BYU, a game they probably should have won. The best win on their resume is Arizona and Colorado. And Arizona really isn't that great this year, so you could probably just put Colorado on that one because Arizona kind of fell apart. But looking at Kansas' upcoming schedule, I don't see a win. Maybe... No, not even Colorado. Sorry. Kansas is not winning any one of these games. So their chance to go to a bowl game this year, like they hope, not happening. Sorry, Jayhawks fan, it's not happening. All right, let's look at Oklahoma. At 11 o'clock on ESPN. Oklahoma 4-3. Ole Miss a 20.5-point favorite. 20-point favorite. Oklahoma's not ranked, which it's happened before after losing to Texas, but the week after they usually get the win and jump back in the rankings. This year, not. Oklahoma's had some trouble with the offense, made some coaching changes, and we'll see how they play against the very high-powered offensive Ole Miss. Ole Miss defense not bad either. I mean, their only losses to Kentucky and LSU, both up by 3 points. But here's the problem with Ole Miss. Their wins, they don't have really any true wins. Those were really their key true games, and they lost them. So, the 5 wins from Ole Miss really aren't really big statements. And I gotta say, playing Oklahoma today, if they win this, still, I don't think it's a statement win because Oklahoma's not a ranked team. But let's look at Jackson Arnold. He is Oklahoma's quarterback. He's passing 57%, 763 yards, 8 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. I think that with the coaching change, I think we'll actually see more offense today than we've seen all season long, but we'll find out. I mean, we'll definitely find out against Maine if they can bring the offense or not. And then the rest of their season, Oklahoma schedule, they got Missouri, Alabama, and then LSU to finish off their season. So Oklahoma is not going to be easy. Oklahoma State, haven't talked about them in a while because they either had a bye week or they played on a Friday night. But 2:30 ESPN Plus, they go on the road to Baylor. Yep, I almost said Baylor's name wrong. Anyway, yeah, Baylor. I think Mike Gundy has finally, after getting the cattle knocked into him, I think Mike Gundy's getting his team turned around. I think we're going to see a win by Oklahoma State today. But, yeah, Baylor's 10th in the conference. Their only win in the conference is against Texas Tech. And Texas Tech is, I mean, they're good, but they're not. Oh, they're going to win the Big 12 good. Yeah, but Ali Bowman, I think, is their guy for some reason. But he came back and won it for them. Passing 59%, 1,000. 738 yards, 2 touchdowns, and only 3 interceptions. What? Yep, that's his stats. Yep, that's his stats. Anyway, let's look at OSU's upcoming schedule. Arizona State next. Got to be a night game, and then TCU and Texas Tech. So I think that, can OSU go to a bowl game this year? I think they can. I think the rest of their schedule, I think, is winnable, where they can go to a bowl game this year. And Texas, well, they're already going to the bowl game because they're 6-1, but they have to deal with Vanderbilt if they want to go to the SEC championship game at 3:15 on the SEC network. This is our game of the week. So, yeah. Once again, Texas gets the game of the week back-to-back, and it's one of the teams we cover. So, yeah, that's that. But Vanderbilt, look at their resume. Their best win, not even best win, upset win over #1 Alabama and Kentucky. And Kentucky was really good at the time after barely beating Georgia. And their first game of the season, big upset win, which gave us the true identity of Vanderbilt, kind of set them up for the season, is Virginia Tech. And their only loss is to Missouri in double overtime. So, yeah, Vanderbilt probably really should be undefeated. I don't know how they're not. They just had that one bad loss, really. And Texas' upcoming schedule, if they can get by the unpredictable Vanderbilt, they got Florida and Arkansas next. So, Texas, if they can get by Vanderbilt, I think Texas got a really good shot at going to the SEC championship game if the SEC falls apart ahead of them. But let's look at Tulsa real quick. They're hosting UTSA. They're 3-4. Tulsa 2-5. Blah blah blah. UTSA 3-4. They're at the bottom of the American Conference. Their best win is, well, I mean, they beat FAU, Florida Atlanta last week, 38-24. Florida Atlanta's not that great either, and that's really the best win I can see off of them. Tulsa's upcoming schedule, if they can win today, are they going to go to a bowl game? No. Can they turn their season around? Possibly. They could win their next 2 games today and next week. East Carolina, I think, is not winnable. And then South Florida, I think, is winnable. I think is winnable for them, for sure. All right. Whew. Time to look at the 12-team playoffs. Yep. This is based off the AP ranking. The season ended, before today. Boise State obviously got that 12th spot. Oregon, obviously, clearly, #1, followed by Georgia 2, Miami 3, and Iowa State 4. So, we got LSU versus Tennessee. I like that matchup. Those two don't play each other in the regular season, so obviously, I think we're very possibly we're going to get one SEC. We're either going to get an SEC versus an SEC or a Big Ten versus Big Ten. Very likely SEC versus SEC. I hope it's not a regular season rematch. I hope we can avoid that, but LSU and Tennessee is going to be a good one. BYU and Ohio State. I think if we get more ACC and Big Ten teams in here, it will less likely for that to happen. But BYU and Ohio State, I think it's going to be a good matchup as well. Clemson and Texas. I'm looking forward to that one. I really hope. I want that game to actually happen. That's going to be a really big game, and I think that very likely, I think we're going to have Oregon versus Miami in the championship game. I think Miami is good enough to go there, but they have to deal with Georgia first. Can Miami beat Georgia? Probably. I think they could. I think Miami has learned their lesson from the last couple of weeks that they need to stop playing teams this close. And Notre Dame and Indiana are left just out of the playoffs. So, yeah. And I gotta say, with all the big games today, this picture is gonna look completely different next week. Alright. Enough about college football. Let's talk about some NFL real quick. Because Deshaun Watson is in the news once again. He had an MRI and season-ending injury. So, yeah. He is gonna be done for the Browns. Yeah. So, are the Browns actually going to look better now? Now that they're starting, QB is out? I don't know. We'll see. And Tagovailoa is back at practice this week. Yeah, his players are really excited to see him back. And one of the main things he said coming back is, I am planning on playing smarter. We'll see if that's true or not. No word on if he's going to play in the next game, but he is back at practice. And we had some Thursday night football. Vikings go on the road to the Rams. Yeah, probably wasn't that big of a game. Yeah, there is the final score of that one. Very likely the Vikings won that. If the Rams did, this is going to make me look real stupid. But a good win for Minnesota. All right, here's some other key games in the NFL tomorrow. The Falcons versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That's our NFL game of the week. Got to be a good one. How is Baker Mayfield and the Buccaneers going to respond after a comeback loss? Yeah, they almost came back and won that game, didn't. The Colts and the Texans going to be a good one as well. The Bills and the Seahawks going to be a good one as well. I think that's going to be another big one. And the Browns versus the Commanders got to be a big one as well. The Chiefs got to have a cupcake this week. They got the 2-5 Raiders on the road at 3:25 tomorrow on CBS. Chiefs are 9.5-point favorite. I think they are going to win this game. I don't even think they need the officials' help for this win. So give me the Chiefs in this one. But the Raiders have any chance of winning this game? No. They're fourth in the AFC West, likely bottom. And then their only win is against the Raiders and the Browns. Yeah, not much of a statement. Your only win, your best win is the Browns. But looking at the Cowboys, they might actually get a good win tomorrow, if they can. They got the 49ers. Yeah, didn't have a successful season as everyone thought they would have. But, yeah, they're 3-4. They're second in the NFC West. Their best wins against the Jets and the Seahawks. So, yeah, 49ers got good wins on their resume. It's the losses, which that's why I'm like thinking, oh, maybe the Cowboys may actually win this game because the 49ers lose games they're supposed to win. Alright, look at some NFL standings from the American Conference. The Chiefs are 1, of course, with a little help by the officials. Texans are 2, Raiders are 3, the Bills are 4, and the Steelers are 5. So, yeah. I gotta say, we got quite a race in the American City. The Chiefs, if some team can beat the Chiefs, we're gonna have quite a race right here. And a way to race to the Super Bowl. Alright, let's look at the National Conference, because this one's gonna be a really good one as well. Alright, number 1 in the NFL National Conference is, drumroll please, alright, the Lions. No surprise there. Number 2 is likely going to be the Minnesota Vikings. Yep. Number 3, Commanders. Number 4 is going to be the Packers, and number 5 is the Bears. Ignore 4 and 5. We're looking really at the top 3 right now. Are probably the best team out of the National Conference. Packers might be involved in there, but really looking at the Lions, Vikings, and Commanders. Really, the Lions and the Vikings. Did I almost combine the Vikings and the Vikings? I did it again. The Vikings. Okay, moving on to underdog game of the week 9. I'm 2 and 4. Not looking that great for me right now. Yeah, 6:30. Yeah, A&M 2.5 point favored. Not a big favored. Since it's close, and LSU is the higher ranked seed, I'm gonna go with I really need a W here. I kind of think that A&M might win this game, but I'm already 2 and 6. I don't care if I get another L. LSU! Give me LSU as an underdog to win this game. And again, I'll be picking this later on, as this is one of the big games I do later on. But anyway, it is now time for the Upshot! Starting with the group of 5 from the American Conference. 11 o'clock, ESPN2. Tulane versus North Texas. Gonna be a big one out of the American Conference. North Texas have been fighting for a chance to go to the American Conference Championship game. Tulane has been there the last couple of years. Tulane is gonna continue that trend going up, winning success. Tulane getting the W. Nebraska, Ohio State, 11 o'clock on Fox. Nebraska, this is your chance to get the big statement win I've been waiting on, but it's not gonna happen. Ohio State gets the W here at home. Alright, moving on. Sticking with the Big Ten. Penn State versus Wisconsin. 6:30 on NBC. Primetime game. Wisconsin could pull off this upset at home. That crowd knows how to be crazy. But Penn State has been dominant all season long. I think this might be the season with the new group of 5. With the new conference realignment teams coming in from the Pac-12. Penn State get the W and trending up for the first time in since Ohio State and Michigan's been terrible. ACC, 7 o'clock, ACC Network. SMU versus Duke. Duke is going to win this game at home, going to pull off a big upset, and I think they're going to be ranked in AP poll next week like they rightfully deserve. Sorry, SMU, but your season, great success in the ACC is over now. For the Big 12, 9:15 on ESPN, Cincinnati versus Colorado. Gonna be a huge game, and for some reason, Cincinnati thinking, why do we have to stay up late to watch this game? I don't know, but Colorado is not going to be ready for this. Cincinnati is going to win this ball game. Notre Dame versus Navy. The midshipmen is going to be ready for this one. Are they? They're a 12-point underdog. 11 o'clock on ABC. EA Sports is agreeing with me. Navy is going to win this game. Although I think they had Navy. No, it had Navy winning big. I think it's going to be a lot closer than that, but I think Notre Dame wins big. I think it's going to be closer than that, but yeah, Notre Dame. Anyway, SEC, 2:30 ABC Network. Missouri versus Alabama. The computer is split with me. I'm surprised EA College Football is going with Missouri, but it doesn't have a good track history with picking the right team. So Alabama is going to win this game at home. You don't pick against Alabama at home, for sure. Nick Saban or not. Illinois and the Ducks. Illinois versus Oregon. Yeah, number one team has gone down the past couple of weeks. I think Oregon is going to stay not true to that. They're going to continue their winning trend, moving up. Oregon in the W. LSU, A&M. You saw it earlier. I had LSU winning this game as an underdog. And as you can see, throw my graphic back up there, that, yeah, LSU is gonna win this ball game very closely. I really want to pick A&M, but I'm picking LSU just to meme the computer and Vegas, really. Alright, our game of the week, Texas, number 5 versus Vanderbilt, number 25, 3:15 on the SEC network. Texas is 17.5-point favored in this game. It is going to be quite a showdown. Texas on the road, and I heard word that Vanderbilt is going to put a netting over their visiting section where the Texas fans are going to be sitting, so there's nothing thrown onto the field. That may be fake, but I wish they really would do it. But Texas, I'm 6-3 this season. I'm going to continue that trend going up. Texas winning this ball game, and I'll see y'all next week.